So I'm interviewing Tim Kelly about 9/11. Tim, where were you on the morning of September 11th, 2001?
I was at first at my office, and then I had a meeting. I'm a lawyer, and was meeting with the other part with a client and the my client and another lawyer and his client, and we were meeting at the courthouse in Cambridge, probate, uh, uh, the probate courthouse in East Cambridge.
All right. How did you become aware that something was wrong on that day?
I actually was preparing for this meeting. We had a trial coming up, and I got a call from the client who said, "Oh, isn't this terrible?" And I thought she was referring to the case that we were, which was kind of a crazy case. But and then she said, "Oh no, there's." Said about that there was a plane that crashed into the World Trade Center, and then I turned the TV on and saw one, and I think I was talking to her on the phone. She said something about the second one, and I'm like, oh no, there's just one plane. So there was a lot of confusion in the initial reports. I remember that.
At first, what did you think was happening? Did you think it was accidental or?
I think my first thought when I first heard it was that it was an accident, that a plane had accidentally hit one of the towers.
Okay. When you did realize that it was not an accident, what were your first thoughts? Or did you at any point during that day?
Yeah, I think shortly after that, because the second plane hit, if I recall, not long after the first plane hit, and then there was some reports of other planes that were unaccounted for. So, there was a panic, I think, setting in for everybody that we didn't know what was going on, and was this, were there going to be all sorts of other attacks? Was there a large, really strategic attack going on?
How did you deal with my older sisters? Did they ask you anything? How did you explain it to them?
It's a good question. I don't recall really specifically. I mean, I think we, told them that, something. I don't remember exactly, but said that they were safe and that we were going to make sure nothing happened to them, and that maybe we said that there was some bad men who did a bad thing.
Sure.
I don't know how much. I kind of expected a lot more questions. I think Betsy had a lot more, and I don't think Mary Kate really had.
She didn't really grasp what was going
on. That I recall, and.
How'd you cope on the days following September 11th? Did you do anything differently, or did you just go back to work and kind of just numbly?
I just went back to work. I think that, I think part of it was with having small children. There was we were very occupied, your mother and I, with trying to to not alarm them, so that they're not gonna, and that was, I think, our goal. We certainly, I mean, I knew, I didn't know anybody that I recall personally that I was acquainted with who died in the attacks, but I certainly heard stories of people who, a relative of a friend of a relative, and a relative of a friend of a friend. I had a college classmate who was in the towers. I didn't know him. I mean, I remembered him, but got that notice. I think if you were in New York, it would have been different, because you definitely would have known people who, whether they worked in the towers or whether they were the first responders that were affected, killed.
Have you visited Ground Zero since the
Yes.
attacks? And how do you feel at that site?
Yeah, it's very sobering. I mean, it was very. I've been there a couple times. Once before well, they were like in the midst of redoing it, and saw the fountain. I think both times. The second time, the last time I was there, they had the museum all up, and that was really unbelievable. I mean, it was just shocking, and because there's some graphic video in that too, and
Audio as well, right?
and all the all the names on the memorial. It's really it's a very, I think it's a beautiful and touching memorial, for all those people who were who died in the attack. But it's it's very sobering. It's very somber.